Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We are gathered on the traditional lands of the signatory of Treaty 6, and I acknowledge the Métis people who share a deep connection to this land. I'm joined by my colleagues, Lorne Dach, Janis, Irwin, and Peggy Wright, who are all members of the committee with me. Earlier in the meeting for the Ethics Commissioner and Chief Electoral Officer Search Committee, members of the UCP submitted their recommendation for Alberta's next Ethics Commissioner. They recommended Mr. Sean McLeod, who has previously sought nomination with the UCP for the position for the constituency of Edmonton Whitemud. Edmonton Riverview. We are opposed to this recommendation, and I will provide the reason for that in a bit. Let's remember, in November, the UCP voted to replace our current Ethics Commissioner, an Ethics Commissioner who had ruled that the Premier had interfered in the administration of justice over the case for now convicted criminal Arthur Pawlowski. The position of Ethics Commissioner should be someone who is nonpartisan, someone who has no previous political ties to the parties that make up the government of Alberta or the official opposition. The Ethics Commissioner is a position that needs to make unbiased decisions about actions of elected members of the Assembly and advise MLAs on their obligations under the Conflict of Interest Act. Yet today, Smith's member of the Search Committee put forward a recommendation to have previous UCP nomination candidate, Sean McLeod, as Alberta's new Ethics Commissioner. Mr. McLeod is currently listed as an advisor for special project to the government of Alberta, consistently donates thousands to both the UCP and Federal Conservative Party, and previously sought, as I mentioned, nomination for the UCP in Edmonton in 2019. It is clear that Mr. McLeod would not be unbiased to Danielle Smith or members of the UCP by appointing a party insider to what should be an impartial, independent position in our democracy. Smith is trying to control everything. Let me explain what the UCP thinks of our objections and about the role of this office. This afternoon, member of the committee, MLA Angela Pitt, said, and I quote, "Perhaps the NDP is upset that they can no longer use this office for their partisan political attacks against the government, as they have in the past. And she is looking forward to Sean McLeod's integrity in this office and standing up against the political partisan attacks that the NDP has used this office in the past." End quote. That sums up the purpose of why the UCP chose this individual. They want someone who can shield them from accountability. Danielle Smith is trying to control everything: the police, Alberta's pension, healthcare decisions, and ethics commissioner, and even election Alberta, because this search committee will also be replacing the chief electoral officer. Now, from the very beginning of this search process, the UCP have used their majority to strong-arm the direction of the search committee and ignore the rules previously in place. Earlier in the process, the UCP replaced one of their committee member, MLA Jason Stephan, after the committee had already done interviews that are a fundamental piece to this search process. Now, MLA Shane Gatson has replaced member Stephan, despite not participating in interview process or being privy to any in-camera or confidential proceeding. MLA Gatson voted to put Sean McLeod in this position without being part of his interview. In the last meeting on Monday, the UCP voted against motion that would ensure the chief election officer position was a non-partisan position and a non-partisan person would be considered for that position. What reason would the UCP have to interfere with an independent body that oversees Alberta's election finances if it is not to insert one of Smith's friend, an insider, into the position, just as they are doing today with the ethics commissioner position. This decision to replace the current ethics commissioner with an individual with known ties to the UCP appears to follow a pattern of behavior from the Premier and this UCP government, seeking to control and replace independent bodies in position of power with partisan friends and allies to minimize scrutiny and accountability for their actions. The Ethics Commissioner and all independent officers of the legislature must be able to carry out their duties without the perception of political bias in order to be effective in their role as a check and balance on the government. Danielle Smith and the UCP have put partisanship above public interest. We have seen this overwhelmingly unfold over the last few weeks with Smith's attempt to divert all power to her cabinet and her gatekeeping bill, Bill 18, and the other bill, authoritarian bill, Bill 20. It is a trend that is disturbing for a person in the Premier's seat to advance so aggressively, and something all Albertans should be concerned about, that how it will impact their health care, their kids' school, their retirement security, their access to justice, and most importantly, their democracy in this province. Thank you, and we are happy to take any questions.
Thank you, MLA Sabir. We'll now go to questions. Just a reminder for those joining us on the phone to use the *9 function, and for those using Zoom to use the raise hand function to get into the question queue. Our first question comes from Catherine Rakowski, Alberta Today. Go ahead, Catherine, your line is open.
You mentioned at committee that you'll be issuing a minority report. I wonder what's going to be in there. Are you going to name names of who you thought would have been a better candidate, or just give the reasons for why you're concerned, or what can we expect from that report?
I understand that minority report will be public this afternoon when the committee will submit its report to the legislature. And we will not be talking about any in-camera proceedings, but we will be outlining over three concerns. One, this person is a partisan person with known ties to the UCP with a history of donation. Second thing, we will indicate that MLA Shane Gutson was substituted for Jason Steffen after the interviews for this position had been concluded, and he was there to whip the vote. And this afternoon, he actually voted for Sean McLeod to be appointed as the commissioner when he was not part of the interview. Like, you cannot decide a case that you didn't hear. That's simple. And third thing, I quoted MLA Pitt, another member of the committee, that who expects this person to stand up against the partisan attacks that NDP has used this office for. I think that's very troubling, because the previous ethics commissioner, the current ethics commissioner, who found that Danielle Smith broke the law while helping or trying to help a now convicted criminal, Arthur Pawlowski. That decision is public. That was based on evidence before the ethics commissioner. And to say that, to use that kind of language for current ethics commissioner, who was also a member of the judiciary, superior judiciary for 30 years, I think that's very troubling. Now that they see this person as their person who will stand up against any attacks against them, or will shield them from accountability. And third thing is, that's a pattern of behavior from this premier, that she wants to control everything. She wants to control police. She wants to control pension plans. She wants to control healthcare. She wants to control school boards. She wants to control municipalities. That's why she has put forward Bill 18, Bill 20, and this appointment is just continuation of that pattern of behavior.
Do you have a follow-up, Catherine?
Yeah, and you had mentioned that the decision on the chief electoral officer is still to come. In that instance, it's a little bit different since the current CEO is retiring. Do you have similar concerns with how the process has gone so far for the chief electoral officer?
I think I won't I guess, predict what the committee will do in those proceedings. But looking at the appointment today, how the process unfold, how they put their chief government whip to whip the UCP votes, I'm deeply concerned. But without even that appointment, we are already seeing a pattern of behavior that this premier is moving Alberta more towards authoritarianism with their bills like Bill 18, Bill 20, their ability to fire councillor, their ability to nullify city municipal bylaws and that kind of thing, and now a clear partisan appointment to an independent office of the legislature. We are deeply worried about the direction this government is taking.
We'll do another pass for questions on the line. Just a reminder, if you're on Zoom, to use the raise hand, and if you're on the phones, to use *9. And with no further questions, we'll wrap today. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.